Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about managing everyday sensitivities or managing your sensitivities every day. If you don't know me, my name is Mia. I like to talk about optimism, knowing yourself, being authentic, being creative, all those good things. So welcome back. If it's your first time, welcome as well. So let's get right into it. So what I'm going to talk about here is a kind of general framework that I use or that I have been using to manage my emotions and my well-being. So the idea is for this to be a kind of blanket approach that you can use to tailor to your own needs as required. So my first tip is to know yourself. So, what this is about is really understanding what you're sensitive to. It's not always so obvious, sometimes we need to just spend a bit of time to investigate what's going on. So just having that as a baseline, being able to know that, like, let's say bright lights make you feel nauseated, or sudden loud noises give you a bit of a a little bit of a response that draws you out of the moment and makes it difficult for you to concentrate. Or, maybe it's certain things in your environment that make you feel ill at ease or that disturb you or create anxiety. It's going to be different for everyone. So this is really just about being able to clearly understand for yourself what causes you discomfort and stress on a daily basis, so that you can find strategies to mitigate that as much as possible. So my second tip is to speak up for yourself. This can be very simple. If there's nobody around, you can just say it to yourself. But I think it's important to just, in the moment when you're feeling too stimulated or whatever, like something's not quite jiving, you need to be able to speak up for yourself and be your own advocate, essentially, and just recognize what's happening and communicate that to either yourself or to the people who you're with, in order for you to be able to just not feel alone and in your head about it. It's a way of validating what's going on, which I think is a really important thing that we tend to not do. We kind of, there's a tendency, I find, to try and ignore something that's unpleasant or uncomfortable instead of just acknowledging it directly, which is really the key, I find, to being able to get past something, is to be able to actually not deny it and validate its existence. Because if you don't validate or acknowledge something as true, how could you possibly overcome it? Because you're essentially denying its existence. It just doesn't make sense. It's not, the math doesn't add up. Okay, so being your own advocate, I think, is really important, because it is functionally validating what you're experiencing, which I think is really what that is about. Number 3 is to strategize. So this is really, I think, this is the practical step, if I can put it that way, where you need to kind of audit, like go back to your list of your sensitivities and then use that as a basis for creating strategies to minimize those triggers within your environment. So if that means, you know, rearranging your furniture or creating a peaceful space for yourself, or, you know, making sure that there aren't like bright reflective things that are gonna reflect light into your eye. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's really, really personal. You need to be able to look at what's upsetting you, what's bothering you, and find practical strategies to minimize those triggers within your life. Again, this is going to be different for everyone. So let me try and think of an example. So, I don't know, I get overwhelmed by clutter quite easily. If I feel like I'm in a space where I can't, in my space particularly, it doesn't really count for an outside external space, but within my own space where I need to have a measure of control and where I need to function practically on a day-to-day basis, having too much clutter creates a type of visual noise that overwhelms me and inhibits my ability to think clearly when I'm in that space. So it's really important for me to put in some effort to just maintain my space in order for it to not overwhelm me. So it's really about being accountable, you know, personally accountable to your situation and to your own well-being. Really, really, really important. You know, you will feel much more in control and empowered if you're able to create these strategies for yourself and implement them in your daily life, and then actually notice how things become easier for you. You don't need to suffer alone in silence. You don't need to suffer at all, you know. You can experience a moment of discomfort without letting that become your whole existence in that moment. You know, you can see it, you can acknowledge it, you can let it go and carry on. You know, you can deal with it as well as you can in that moment. You can be kind to yourself and say, it's not my fault that I have sensory sensitivities. It is normal for me to have them, which it totally is. If that's what if that's the hand you're dealt, it's the hand you're dealt, you know. There's no point in trying to deny it. We deal with it instead, because that's how you progress, right? Do you want to be suffering? Do you want to be stuck? Do you want to feel like you have no power, no control in your life? Maybe you do, but I would say that's not great. It's not a nice way to feel. It's not a nice way to live, because you rob yourself of all agency. So, you know, you got it. You can take control. You can have influence over yourself to be happy and peaceful and fulfilled. So just believe in yourself and take that time to invest in yourself. So number 4 is to prioritize. My baby. Prioritize your wellness. So following on from these strategies, right, that you've now created, it's important to actually prioritize your own wellness. And I would even say, if you can, try and organize your day-to-day activities in a way where you energize yourself before you drain yourself, right? Because I've spoken about this before, but it's much harder to cope with feelings of frustration and anger and just anxiety in general when you're in a low energetic state. So it's really important to energize yourself, to take really good care of yourself, prioritize your needs, physical, mental, emotional, by acknowledging them and tending to them, so that you can really show up for the rest of your life. What I mean is not for the extent of your life, but for the other areas of your life, in a more relaxed and just neutral way, where there's more than just, tasks to accomplish. There's a sense of growing yourself, of taking care of yourself, of nurturing, so that you can become the gift that you are to the world, Not that you need to become it, but I think, there's a point at which we're unable to give to others, to the external environment, because we don't have those things within ourselves, right? And the truth is actually that you do have those things, but you need to nurture your own well-being in order to be able to share that with the world. So that's it. Important to prioritize. Number 5 is to be gentle and kind with yourself, because you don't need to harsh your own vibe, if I can put it that way. Being compassionate is really not always easy. I don't know, we're kind of conditioned in a way to be quite judgmental, in particular of ourselves, which then extends to others. I think the more judgmental we are towards ourselves or of ourselves, the more judgy we are about others, and it just kind of, it's not a good feeling, I think it's important to view all of us as worthy of compassion and love and forgiveness and kindness, because oftentimes the people who seem the most unwilling or unable to express those values, it's because they haven't received that. They don't allow that for themselves. And sometimes it's just a case of not feeling like you actually deserve it, but that's its own whole thing. So I think, again, going back to not judging yourself for being the way you are is really important. But I think, you also need to be accountable and say, well, am I behaving in an appropriate way, or am I just throwing a tantrum because I don't like what's happening? And the thing about a tantrum is that it's actually just a way to get attention. It's not a solution for your problems, It's a solution when you're a toddler and you literally can't do anything for yourself. But as a grown-up, it's not helpful, it just alienates yourself and other people. So be gentle and kind, because it's not going to help you really to be any other way. And, this is specifically with yourself. Yes. Okay, so my final tip, step, whatever, is to give yourself a fresh start each day. And this is something that I think anyone can implement, and it will really, 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 really help you, particularly with the previous point I made, point 4, which is to prioritize your own well-being. So what I mean by giving yourself a fresh start each day is to not leave, don't leave loose ends for tomorrow that you could have dealt with today, right? So, for instance, if I wake up in the morning and I go into the kitchen to make myself a cup of tea or coffee, and there's a whole bunch of dishes that I need to do, the kitchen's a mess, I didn't bother to audit my to-do list from the day before, and now I don't know what I'm gonna do when I sit down and try and work. It just all becomes a big fat mess very quickly, and it means there's a lot of things for you to sort out before you can get started with your day. Or at least, even if you don't deal with that stuff, it just feels like an obstacle. You're just like piling onto your to-dos instead of having a nice, fresh, relaxed start to your day. So I think it's so easy actually to just spend a tiny amount of effort investing into your future happiness, right? So reduce friction for yourself as much as possible. Because it'll just enable you to do the things that you really want to do instead of being bogged down by little niggling tasks that aren't really serving a function except for a type of maintenance or admin of your environment or your, what you actually need to be doing. So it's like managing versus doing. If you're just like, it's not helpful, I think, to anyone when you wake up in the morning and instead of being able to feel refreshed and like you have a clear intention and purpose, instead now there's all these other things that you could have dealt with yesterday that would have taken you maybe 5 to 10 minutes to deal with yesterday. But now instead it feels like a huge obstacle that you first need to overcome, or it's just another thing that you need to do on the following day. Okay, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. But yeah, those are my 6 tips. So to go over them again, the first, tips for managing your sensory sensitivities on a daily basis. Number 1 is understand yourself by knowing what you're sensitive to. What are your triggers? Number 2, speak up for yourself. Validate what you're experiencing in the moment and learn how to communicate that to others in a way that's not blaming them or that isn't just complaining. It's about moving beyond. Number 3 is to strategize. Find ways within your daily life that you can minimize your exposure to triggering scenarios as much as you can. We do what we can. Number 4 is to prioritize your own well-being, because that's really the stable base from which you operate. The more tended to you are, the more able you are to deal with stress and discomfort. Number 5 is to be gentle and kind with yourself, and accept where you are on any day, so that it's not gonna help you if you're feeling bad to make yourself feel even worse. That's really what it comes down to. And then last tip, number 6, is to set yourself up for a fresh start each day so that, yeah, you can just go about your things straight into the flow instead of feeling like you have hurdles to get over before you even get into your day. You deserve it. We all deserve a fresh start each day, and it's totally possible to give that to yourself. You just need to be accountable to yourself. And I think that's really the biggest thing it comes down to. You got this. We got this. Let me know if any of this was helpful to you, if you can relate to any of this, if you're still around at the end of this, if there's anything you agree or I guess more or rather don't agree with. What have you found helps you with your sensory sensitivities? Yeah. Thank you for watching if you have. I have a blog as well, which I'll link below if you're interested in any of this stuff. I write quite regularly on there. Yeah. Thank you for watching and have a great day.